It's time for more Manifesting Original Rich Bitch Experiences. Each week, we're talking travel, wellness, and millennial musings with a level of refinement. What level? It fucking depends. I'm your host, Ava Bilkey. Hey guys! Social media has been on my mind a lot lately. And you might be thinking, well, obviously it's your profession. Like, when are you not thinking about social media? But what I mean is, I've been thinking a lot about it from a personal user experience perspective. And I have some thoughts. So, today I want to share some what you may find as unconventional social media advice. And if you don't know, the quick background on my experience is that I have worked in social media marketing for 13 years. So I spent 10 years working in the corporate side, supporting national and global brands, had every job you could imagine, everything between social media intern, community manager, social media manager, paid ads manager, social media director. Like, I've done all the jobs. And then I also have 3 years of consulting experience as a social media coach and strategic consultant. So I'm like a little not hesitant to share my true personal thoughts and opinions here, but the more I look to bridge the gap between my personal and professional lives, the more I feel that this is necessary. So, like I said, you might find this advice a little unconventional, counterintuitive. It might be the opposite of what every other social media expert, article, author, platform is telling you. But this is where I've arrived at, as of today, my personal viewpoints, my personal unconventional advice for social media today. Basically, what it comes down to is kind of saying fuck it to all of the shoulds. And by shoulds, I mean the very prescriptive advice that we've been getting over and over and over again. Because as users of the social media platforms, we have the choice on whether or not we want to play into these expectations, whether or not we want to play the game, whether or not we want to continue to fuel the way we are currently experiencing social media platforms and the experience as a whole. So that's how I'm approaching this. And I have a handful of different pieces of advice. So let's just get into it. The first piece of unconventional social media advice is to post less. I know. I know. Everyone is saying post more, 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 more. But I think we should actually be posting less. As I was preparing for this episode, I opened up Instagram, and I kid you not, the first video I saw on Reels was a girl saying, I grew 70,000 Instagram followers in 3 months, and this is how I did it. I posted 5 Reels a week. I posted 3 stories a day, and the list went on and on and on. And I think we've all seen these types of posts. And I am not discrediting any individual user's experience. That's great, girl. I love that you dedicated the last 3 months of your life to growing your Instagram following. And that's probably the only thing you did for the last 3 months, because to post 5 Reels a week, the 3 stories a day, everything else she was talking about is a full-time job. We all know this. So I think what happens when we post so much is we're actually devaluing each individual creation. Each individual post, we are basically shortening the lifespan of our own content by posting at the frequency at which these platforms want us to post. And I'm well aware that this is the recommendation. So, as it stands today, the recommendation from Instagram is one feed post every single day and 6 Instagram stories a day. Okay. And the current recommendation on TikTok is 3 videos a day. And the current recommendation on YouTube is 3 or more videos a week. Okay. You get the idea. It's like every platform wants a shit ton of content. And while posting a bunch can be very helpful right away, if you have like a very serious goal of visibility and you really want to dedicate everything you have to growing an audience on one of these platforms, cool. Do it. Do the 3 or 4 TikToks a day. Do the feed post every day on Instagram. Do the 6 stories. Post every single fucking day on YouTube. Go for it. It will get you results. But I think there's a better way to approach like what the fuck we're even doing on these platforms. If you post less, maybe you're posting once a day on TikTok instead of 3. Maybe you're posting 2 or 3 times a week on Instagram instead of 7. Maybe you're posting once a week on YouTube. I think that is a better direction to take because it will give you longevity. It will give you personally longevity from the perspective of minimizing your burnout, not avoiding it. It's still going to happen. Minimizing your burnout. It will give your content itself a longer lifespan. You're going to give it a little bit of breathing room, which should be more of the point, right? If you create something, you want people to see it. You don't want to then bury it with 3 more posts on the same fucking day. I think if we post less, we give ourselves the opportunity to curate and build almost a portfolio of our personal brands on social media without just becoming part of this content machine. So, my first piece of advice is to post less. My second piece of social media advice that may be unconventional is don't be trendy, be evergreen. And what I mean by this is trends are only going to get you so far on social media. What are trends? Trends are the sounds, the dances, the lip syncs, the editing formats, the filters that are going viral on social platforms. Now, don't get me wrong, there is benefit in dabbling in trends because when you do use a trending sound on TikTok, for example, your video is going to get more views because the audio is trending. That's how it works. But if you only become a trend rider, if you're just hopping on and executing and riding every single trend, I don't know who the fuck you are. I don't know who the fuck you are because chances are you're not using your voice. We can't actually hear you. You're not sharing any original thoughts. And you're not giving your audience a true take on your personality. Does that make sense? If you're only doing trends, I have no idea who you are. Evergreen content, on the other hand, is something that is timeless. Evergreen content stands the test of time. So, in 2 days or 2 weeks or even 2 years, when that one song you used was hot for a second, it's no longer going to play. You want to make sure that you are creating content that can stand the test of time, that is evergreen, because again, this helps you get out of that constant cycle of having to just create a high volume of crap. And the nice thing about evergreen content is that you can reshare it. You can repost it to your stories. You can recall a video that you shared that comes back around. You have like a second take on it, or maybe you want to reshare it because people are just discovering your profile. There are so many applications for content that is timeless, and it's going to give you a better connection with your audience, because chances are your evergreen content is something where you are maybe talking to the camera, you are sharing a story, you are showing a experience you had while you're traveling somewhere. It might still have, music tied to it. It might still use a light filter that was cool in the moment that you made it, but it just has more longevity. So don't be trendy, be evergreen, but know that integrating in trends is still a great strategy. So, what I'm saying is, don't go 100% in on trends. Make sure that you're mixing up your content in a way where you have a healthy balance of things that are going to be more timeless. And then you're also picking and choosing your moments of hopping on the very time based trends that can be of benefit to you in the growth phase of your personal brand. My next piece of unconventional social media advice is to not deliver too much value. And this one is geared at my business and personal branding girlies, okay? Delivering value is the number one rule of social media. Delivering value is essentially, what is it that you are providing your audience? Everything should have value. The value could be educational, it could be entertaining, it could be a personal connection. There are lots of different types of value. But what I am seeing right now is this value is way too educational. Like, we have gone to the maximum when it comes to educational content. And I swear to God, when I open up Instagram, I don't know if I'm watching like TED Talks YouTube channel or what the hell is going on, but every piece of content I consume is like, this is why you should be 100% carnivore diet, or I quit drinking caffeine and, this is the science behind it and this is why you should do it too. You know what I mean? Like, have you seen this overabundance of educational content? Educational content is great, but I think, again, we've gone too far. We've gone too far on this content bucket, and we need to be mixing in, as creators, as consumers, we need to be mixing in other forms of value. Again, what else could be valuable? Any and everything. You don't have to be teaching in every single moment. Sometimes content for entertainment's sake is just as valuable, right? Because I'm personally to the point where I've seen so many fucking TED Talks on Instagram that I actually prefer to hop on TikTok and watch Victoria Paris walk around Japan drinking green tea out of vending machines, okay? That is where I'm at in life. And that has value too. The teachable moments, I think, have gone a bit too far. I would like for the collective to look at reeling it in a bit and knowing that there is value in you simply existing. There is value in you simply showing up and sharing a beautiful point of view of what you saw when you looked out your window this morning. There is value in you sharing a funny experience you had at the gas station. We don't have to be teachers in every single moment. And this segues into getting back to the business girlies, okay? You don't want to give too much value. Like, you don't want to give away the farm. If you have a business, If you have a personal brand, if you have a business where you sell experiences, coaching, strategies, services, events, whatever it is, you don't have to give away your whole everything for free. And this is counterintuitive advice because I am very aware that right now, the common advice from other industry coaches, strategists is give away everything. People are still going to buy from you because you have to build the trust first, right? This is true, but we don't have to build the trust by sharing anything and everything from our latest and greatest programs and then wondering why people aren't converting to buying. Because here's the thing, you train your audience on what they can expect from you. So if you decide personally that you're going to show up every single day and do a daily weather forecast, okay? That's what your audience expects. That's what your new followers are following you for. That's what your current followers are expecting and desiring to see from you. You've set that expectation. But someday you might not want to deliver a daily weather forecast. Maybe you go on vacation and you're like, I'm not forecasting this week. I'm on vacation. See ya. Or maybe you have a little burnout. Maybe you have a personal emergency. Like, who knows? My point is that when you train your audience on what they can expect from you, if you are constantly offering up 100% of your business, your service, your product, you have trained your audience to come to your social media and consume 100% of your content for free. You have trained them into not buying from you. And this is a problem because anyone who is a business owner knows that you got to make money, right? That's that's the 3D reality of all of this. We have to make money. My advice to you is to stop giving so much value away for free. Make sure that you are still delivering value, of course, but just reel it in a little bit. Create a little bit more mystery, create a little bit more intrigue, create a little bit more demand for what it is that you offer. And then convert your audience into paying customers. My next piece of advice is to share more unpolished, imperfect content, visually speaking. And for all of my fellow millennials out there, I know this is going to be, it's going to be tough, right? Millennials were raised in picture perfect Instagram era. We are of the era of life in squares. We have lived our lives creating the perfect square images. And that's what used to work. The photoshopped, face tuned, Paris filtered pictures, videos of the perfect acai bowl, the perfect sunset view, the cutest fucking outfit. This is what is ingrained in our DNA at this point, right? Because this is the Instagram that raised us. And I'm sorry to say, this is no longer the reality of social platforms. And there's nuance in this. So visuals have to be interesting enough. They have to be clear enough. They have to be well lit enough. They have to be interesting enough to stop the scroll. You still have to grab attention for anyone to give your content the time of day. But it's more nuanced now. The perfect avocado toast has been played out. We no longer believe in it because we know the back end of the orchestra of arranging your plate and adjusting the tomatoes and grabbing a second camera, flashlight. Like, we know what went into the shot. So it's no longer resonating because it's not natural, it's not authentic. This is the Gen Z influence, okay? Now, the avocado toast needs to be a little bit blurry. I'm sorry to say. It needs to be a little bit lopsided. Like, there needs to be too much olive oil on the plate. This is a hard habit to break. I know that I know this piece of advice is not easy to swallow, but we need to be creating and sharing things that are less polished, less perfect, while still capturing attention. And if you want an example of what this could even look like, just spend an hour on TikTok. Spend 15, 20 minutes browsing some Gen Z Instagram pages, and you will be able to pick up on what I'm putting down here. Um, Emma Chamberlain is a great example. She is the leading force on Gen Z social content, okay? The less polished your content while still having quality to it, the better it's going to play. And while we're on this subject, I will just throw in there, because I love you, millennials, I love us so much, but boomerangs are dead. Boomerangs have gone to the grave and should not be resurrected. So if you're still doing the boomerangs, just know that your millennial is showing. Okay? If you're okay with that, stick to it. But for me, that era is gone. She gone. Rest in peace. My next piece of social media advice is to respond to direct messages and comments on your own time. This one is probably one of my personal favorites. So, spending 10 years inside of the corporate structure working with brands on social media, your response time as a brand has a huge impact on customers, consumers, a huge impact because the expectation is so high. To give you an example, in my last corporate role, my community manager average response time was like an hour and a half, which means they were responding to direct messages and comments on behalf of the brand on average within an hour and a half of them being received. This is how this role was partially measured, okay? Response time is super important in the brand setting. It's essentially like social media customer care. However, and this unconventional advice does not apply to large brands. If you are a large brand, you still absolutely need to be community managing all of your inbound inquiries within a timely manner. However, if you are a person, if you're an individual and you are just thriving managing your personal brand, my advice to you is to respond on your own time. The easiest way to look at this, I think, is by taking an example of your email inbox. If you sit on your emails all day and you essentially respond to them as they come in, one by one, two by one, they trickle in all day long, right? If that's what you're doing, that's how you end up spending your entire day. What did you do today at work? Oh, I responded to all of my emails. cool, cool. And then what? You know what I mean? The same goes for social media. So if you spend a big chunk of your time every single day, just sort of like at the ready, ready to respond to people as they leave comments and emojis and little winky faces on your posts, you're not probably getting much else done. And so this is something where I personally have really changed my outlook on this. If you would have come to me 2 years ago and asked me about this, I would say, yes, like you need to be responding multiple times a day as soon as possible. Today, my answer is much different. And my answer has changed because we need better boundaries. I think the pandemic in particular really kind of did away with any last shred of personal boundary we had, because when we were confined to our homes and we couldn't leave and we couldn't see anyone and we couldn't go anywhere, all we had was the internet. And the internet in many ways saved us during that time. And in many ways it destroyed us during that time. We spent so much time staring at screens, just waiting to hear from somebody, instantly responding. I think we got out of the practice of boundaries. So, my advice to you is to respond on your own time. It's super important to still acknowledge and create and foster and nurture connections through social media. I want you to be responding to the people that are reaching out to you. I want you to be acknowledging comments. Real humans are taking the time, mostly real humans. We've got some bots to deal with, but real humans are taking the time to acknowledge you, and you should be acknowledging them back. That is the social in social media. And if we lose the social in social media, this medium becomes no better than email. So it's super important, but I think you should do it on your own time. Whether that's hanging out for a few minutes before and after you post something to acknowledge and respond to the first kind of like comments and handful of acknowledgments that roll in, whether that is setting aside an hour specifically every single day in which you go in and you respond to everything all at the same time, whether, it's creating some sort of batching mentality around responses. This is a much healthier way to go about socializing on social media. So, don't respond instantly, respond on your own time, and look for a way to carve out some time during your day that you can still enjoy this process. If you've dedicated an hour on a Tuesday to answering your DMs and your comments, you can actually enjoy it, right? Because you're not like, oh shit, I'm actually supposed to be making my lunch right now. Or, you know what I mean? Like you've set aside that special time to do this. And that in and of itself makes the entire experience more enjoyable, which probably makes your responses more enjoyable. And it has this sort of positive domino effect on the entire process. That's my advice on responding. My next piece of advice is to stop following people back. It used to be proper social media etiquette that if somebody followed you, you'd have to follow them back. And I know this one can feel a little bit tricky, especially if they're people that you know, especially if you're a people pleaser, and especially if you've been in this habit. But you don't have to follow everyone back. And that's kind of a beautiful thing. This advice comes on the heels of me looking at my personal experience of what I really want to see on my timelines, on my news feeds, across social platforms. Personally, I'm at a place where I've decided that on Instagram specifically, I'm no longer consuming irrelevant information from people I went to high school with that weren't even friends of mine. I'm no longer consuming anything that doesn't inspire me. I talk about this at length when it comes to social media boundaries and actually cleaning up your news feeds because you do have control over the content you consume. So I've decided that I'm going to follow artists and musicians and other creators and business owners, brands that I really love, in addition to my closest friends, some of my family members, my people, my core people. That's who I follow on the internet. And I have unfollowed every person that I think, or per account, brand, everything that I at one point followed as a follow back because I felt like I should or I felt like I have to. We don't have to do that. Don't follow people back unless you truly desire to. On the topic of follows, I also want to share that this whole follow unfollow game that some people still play in terms of wanting to increase their audience size but not actually wanting to follow people is bullshit. If you do that, stop doing that. I think that's one of the most inauthentic social media practices that is still taking place. This whole follow unfollow game, and some of it's human, but I think some of it's actually like machine driven. I forget the name of the platform, but if you do this, chances are you probably already feel a little bit called out and you know exactly what I'm talking about. But don't do that. There's no point in doing that. If you're acquiring followers in a way that is inauthentic from the get go, the quality of your audience is going to plummet. And then ask yourself, like, what is the point of having followers that don't even really care what you're up to, anyways? They're not going to engage with your content. It's going to drive down your overall average engagement rates. They're never going to buy anything from you. That's for damn sure. So just think about that intention. Stop playing the follow unfollow game. Like, the numbers are never going to really add up in the end. And feel free to really clean up your news feeds and know that you don't have to follow someone back just because they follow you. In 2023, we're not doing that. We no longer have time for these kind of games, you know? My last piece of social media advice for now is to be more authentic, to be more you. And I know you're thinking, like, this isn't unconventional. I actually hear this all the time from everybody. But when I say be more authentic, I mean really, truly. There's this weird pattern of manufactured authenticity that is just widespread. It's all over the internet. And this manufactured authenticity is the coach who is talking to camera saying, I really want to be authentic with you. And so this is yada yada. Like, if someone ever says the word authentic, and I don't mean to target coaches there, that I've seen a lot of this from my fellow my fellow coaching industry. But if someone uses the word authentic, chances are whatever they're saying is not authentic, right? Like, if someone has to talk themselves into the idea that they are being authentic, that is immediately a red flag. They're lying to themselves, and in turn, they're lying to you. And maybe not maliciously. I think a lot of this happens subconsciously, right? Where we hear the advice over and over and over again. Be authentic, be you, share your honest truth. Who cares what anyone thinks? And it's like, hell yeah. But It's so much easier to say that than it is to do that. And naturally, then we get this wave of manufactured authenticity where people just aren't fully ready to accept their personal truths. They aren't fully grown into who they truly are, what they truly believe, what they have to offer. And so, please, 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 please be more you and pass your own truth test. Check in with yourself. If you are getting ready to share a story, whether that's your founder story or a lesson that you learned or something that you think would be really helpful or whatever it is, check in with yourself before you share it and just make sure that it feels true to you in the moment. So, my advice is to be more authentic, to be more you, but it's counterintuitive in the sense that I want you to actually be more you and not just continue to feed the fake realness of manufactured authenticity and the bullshit that is a byproduct of people wanting to be authentic, but perhaps not knowing how. That one's a little bit tricky. It's a little reverse, it's not reverse psychology, but it's a little bit more of a puzzle. And this is something that I sit with myself quite a bit. And I encourage you to sit with this thought too. And to get into the habit of just like running yourself through a filter of, and not over filtering, because over filtering is where we lose the authenticity. But just a quick gut check, a quick drop in terms of like, is this true to me? Is this fully mine? Am I sharing it for the right reasons? And then hitting record, and then pressing play and then hitting post from there. But I think the more truly authentic we can be, the more comfortable we can be with showing our true selves and being more of who we are, the better that is for everyone. Society needs what's real. We need what's real. And when you get to a place where you are true and you are real, that's where you have the greatest natural ability to truly connect with other people. When you get to that heart centered place and you have a heart centered approach to social media, that's when you can actually move the needle. There you have it. My unconventional social media advice as someone who has worked in and experienced social media professionally for the last 13 years. I hope this gave you something to think about. I would love to hear which points resonated most with you. And I would love to hear how, if you decide to adapt any of these changes, like I would really love to hear how it goes for you. So please keep me posted on that. Send me a DM, reach out, and I think I think you'll love it. I think you'll have a better experience. And let's get into this week's Love It or Leave It. What I'm loving this week is the fact that I'm not at home. So I've been on the road for the last 10 days. I'm back in my element. I'm traveling. I'm visiting friends. I'm exploring new cities. And while that brings its own host of challenges for me in terms of just finding a sense of groundedness and reacclimating to all of my different environments. Like right now, it's like I'm podcasting from a bed and I've got, I'm out of my normal environment. While that brings challenges, I truly feel happier when I'm not at home. Like there's something I really love about having to continually adapt to a new environment that really just keeps me on my toes. And there's something to the novelty of all of it that really just makes me feel truly alive and so much happier. Like, I am just so much happier when I'm not at home. And I love my home. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. But I'm loving this for me in this moment. The next thing I'm loving this week, oh my God, Miss Miley Cyrus, Endless Summer Vacation. The new album is delicious. I absolutely love it. It's been on nonstop repeat in my AirPods since it came out last week. And it's such a fun, just summery album. I think the fact that I'm in California right now also, like, it just like it hits even harder because I can kind of see like a little taste of summer, even though it's been a little cold here too. I don't know. I'm absolutely loving it. I think the thing that's really cool about this album in particular is that Miley Cyrus has essentially effectively blended all of her past eras into one album. So when you listen to it, you have songs that are reminiscent of bangers. You have a little bit of country vibe. You have a little bit of the Plastic Hearts rock and roll thing going on. Like, it has, and then you've got like some really classic, iconic pop bangers. Like, I feel like it just has all of her eras really pooled into one in a way that actually works. And what I love about that is I think it's reflective of the fact that we can all combine all of our eras and bring them to who we are, like, present day. I don't know about you, but like I have a tendency to be like, ugh, you know, 2022 Ava can't come to the phone right now. Like, she's gone, you know? And it's like I just love to kind of like push away my past evolutions in a sense that I don't think is necessarily healthy. And so I love this kind of this album as this representation or this idea that bringing all of the pieces of the past versions of yourself to your present self is actually kind of like your magic. It's like your magic factor. It just adds so much depth to who we are. So I love this album. If you haven't listened to it, listen to it. Flowers is the lead single, of course. And we have River, which I also love. Um, but there's so many good songs on the album. So shout out to Miley for doing your thing, for bringing all of your eras together, and for giving us a summer anthem album. Love. On a less positive note, what I'm leaving behind this week is off brand grocery stores. So, if you listened to the pod from last week, you know that I was in LA and you know that I went to Erewhon. And Erewhon is the grocery store of all grocery stores. And so I have realized that if it isn't Erewhon and if it isn't Whole Foods, I just don't want it. I went to a grocery store earlier this week near where I'm currently staying, and it was not the vibe. The organic section was so small, and all of the foods in the organic section at this grocery store were just dead, like energetically dead. You know, when you look at food and you can just see that it's no longer vibrant, the entire organic section at this grocery store was just dead. So I bought 3 conventional Honeycrisp apples. And if that didn't already send me into a bit of an identity crisis, I discovered upon slicing open these apples that 2 out of the 3 of them were rotting from the inside out. I was disgusted. I was frustrated. I like my grocery time, unless I'm at Erewhon, to be very concentrated, very productive. It's like everything's on my list is in the cart. Everything that's not on the list is not in the cart. I'm in and I'm out in 20 minutes and I shop once a week. Like that is my normal grocery experience when I'm at home or when I'm settled in a place where I have a kitchen. And so to have to go to a store that like didn't have organics and then had rotting foods was just not the vibe? So today I'm actually going to make the drive to the nearest Whole Foods from where I currently am, which is like a 20 or 25-minute drive. And again, the whole reason why I went to the other stores is like, oh, come on, Ava, like you don't really need to drive a half an hour to go to the grocery store. Like, surely something else can do. Wrong. Nothing else can do. I'm leaving behind the off brand grocery store. Whole Foods is life. Erewhon's is extra life. I think for me, it's just a lesson in like, if you know that you genuinely like something, don't feel bad about it. Don't feel like you're being extra for driving an extra 15 minutes to go to the grocery store that you want to go to. Like, just do it. Just live your life. There we have it. Some unconventional social media advice. We're loving Miley Cyrus's album. We're loving traveling. We're leaving behind the off brand grocery stores. And thank you so much for listening. Like I mentioned, if you implement any of this advice, please let me know how it goes. I'm super interested to know which points really resonated with you. And I hope that some of this advice will unlock something in you that makes it all a little less painful and a little more enjoyable. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you next week. Bye. Listen to the More Pod every Wednesday as I share the things that make me more me and discover a thing or two to make you more you.